a Muslim, you were required to pay a 5% tax to the caliphate for protection.
Oh, Chicago.
And, well, sort of. And as long as you paid that tax, then you were under the protection of the caliphate and you were permitted to exercise your faith. But if you didn't pay that 5% tax, so sorry, you're an infidel, whatever happens, happens. So this is the basis for the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, most of your radical groups, most of your Islamic groups, draw their heritage or their lineage out of the Muslim Brotherhood. So Hamas in Gaza is a direct offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood, and in fact is very heavily supported by the Muslim Brotherhood in Gaza. In fact, a lot of the tunnels going under the border. In 2008, when I was over there, sitting down with an Israeli brigade commander on the Israeli side of the border, he was talking about Hezbollah moving into the Sinai to assist in smuggling across the Negev desert because they couldn't get things into Gaza because it had been shut off by the Israelis and by the Egyptians. Arab-Israeli wars. The British in 1948, and I want you to think about this, those of you who are old enough, older than I am, to remember that era. 1948, World War II only ended 3 years early. Europe is still in Rome, being rebuilt. The Nuremberg war trials are just getting ready to start to try Göring and the rest of the higher-ranking Nazis. Okay? This is the situation of the world in 1948. Yes, sir?
Going back to World War I, they don't track for they strictly nomadic, or they are living in occupied territory. Why did they need a homeland?
Well, they wanted a homeland. Again, realize the evolution of the world. The Bedouins are exposed to the modern world, especially some of them. They've been exposed and under Turkish rule for 500 years. They don't want to live under the Turks anymore. They want to live under themselves. They want to run their own country. They don't want to live under the British or under the Turks. So that's the basis for that desire and that promise. The British were smart, though. They wouldn't give them artillery. They gave them all kinds of other arms. But the British commander in that theater would not give them artillery because they said, once you give an army artillery, it becomes an army.
That's right.
The Arab-Israeli wars are not the cause of radical Islam. It is a rally call because it is a thorn in the ego of almost all Arabs. And it is a thorn because, think about this. If I take the Middle East and I say the Middle East is the size of a football field, Israel is the size of a postage stamp put down on that football field. Now, understand the embarrassment when all of the Arab countries go to war with Israel and lose.
I think that would be embarrassing, yes.
Okay? That does not go over well. Okay? And so consequently, you will hear that used all the time because it incites in the Arab world a sense of embarrassment, a sense of disgrace, etc. Okay? So don't let that be key, because I'll tell you what, I've had many discussions with Lebanese friends when I was in Lebanon teaching at the Lebanese Army Staff College last year, and we went, why are you complaining about how the Israelis treat the Palestinians? You guys have them locked up in camps, and they can't get out. And not only can they not get out, but they can never get Lebanese citizenship, even though 90% of them were born in Lebanon since 1948. And oh, by the way, they can't get a work permit.
So what do they do?
They live in squalid camps that are nests for radical recruitment. And the Lebanese in 2008 had to go in and clean out one of the camps and literally fought a big battle against insurgents in one of the Palestinian camps. And the Lebanese will admit that's probably the next thing they're going to have to do is fight in other camps. So when you hear the Arabs complain about how Israel treats the Palestinians, the easiest thing to do is go, what about you guys? How much do you like the Palestinians? So understand the impact of it. Now what I want you to think about is this. Just like in so many other countries, the majority of the population in most of these Arab countries is under 30 or 35 years old. Okay?
Little hot-headed.
Well, no, here's what you have to really start to understand. Very few job opportunities. If your family is not connected, you're not getting a job. You can go to school, you can get a college education, but you're not going to earn more than $200, $300 a month. Period. And that's all you face. And there is no way out. Yes, sir.
In Saudi Arabia, when I was there, the average birth rate of a woman was, they had 7 children.
Yeah.
So that was just the average.
Yeah.
What about the other countries? Is it the same?
To a greater or lesser degree, you will find in the rural areas that's very common. You will find in the more metropolitan areas. So for example, in Lebanon, if I go down into the Bekaa Valley or down into South Lebanon, south of the Litani River, that's probably a pretty good statistic. But if I'm in Beirut, probably not, because they're more metropolitan and they've sort of gotten away from many of the traditional concepts. That doesn't mean they've gotten away from all of them. But yes, in most areas of the Middle East and North Africa, children, that's the job of women, to produce children.
Well, I don't think it's a job of man.
Right.
Not going to go there. Okay, so understand the impact of the Arab-Israeli wars. It is not the deciding factor. But at any time they bring that up, it touches a vein in most of the Arab countries. Okay, it touches an emotional vein that produces a feeling. Okay, we're going to shift gears a little bit. And we're going to shift gears because we're going to talk about why what is happening has happened and what you're looking at. Radical Islam leads to insurgencies. It leads to insurgencies because, except for Saudi Arabia and Iran, and to a lesser degree Kuwait and some of the other countries, most of these countries are not Islamic theocracies. Now, I want to make a little distinction here for you so you understand a term. We have Sunni and Shia groups in Islam. There are also half a dozen or more other smaller groups, but the two basic groups are the Shia and the Sunni. And here's where that comes from. And we could debate, I mean, we could spend a week in a course just discussing all this, so you're getting the drive-by shooting version of this. There's more than just one reason why things happen. But when Muhammad died, one part of Islam believed that his successor should be one of his direct descendants. Those are the Shia. A larger group said, no, the council should elect the successor to Muhammad. They're the Sunni. Now there are some other differences, but that's where the split really started. Right after the death of Muhammad. Also understand, Iran is Persian, not Arab. Arabs don't like Persians. Persians don't like Arabs. Okay? Iran is Shiite. There's only 2 other countries that have majority Shiite populations. Okay, Bahrain being one of them, that you've seen in the news lately. Most of the Arab countries, most of the Islamic countries, the majority are Sunni Islam. Okay? We need to understand that, and all of you do understand this, you just don't always think about it. 15th of April is what to Americans?
Tax day.
Yeah. How many of you enjoy doing your income tax?
I don't do it, she does.
You know what I'm saying? How many people enjoy writing the check to the government or seeing how much money the government is getting? Okay? So you have a grievance, right? Any group can have a grievance. It takes a grievance, it takes something that you're not happy with, or you're never going to have an insurgency. So, we got prerequisites. In order to have an insurgency, there are certain things that have to exist, or you're not going to have an insurgency. You're just going to have a whole lot of people who go home upset at the end of the day. And we've done that for years. And we're going to talk about root causes briefly. First basic need of an insurgent is an attractive cause. With a cause, the insurgent has a formidable asset that he can progressively transform into concrete strength. Key idea. I've got a grievance, I've got a population with an issue. Now, as an insurgent, I turn that into a concrete strength, action. The best causes for the insurgent's purpose is the one that attracts the largest number of people. Okay? That appeal to the largest number of people. Prerequisites. Vulnerable population. That's people with a grievance. Doesn't mean the grievance is true. They just have to believe it's true. I could be black and complain about racial prejudice in the United States. It may not be true, but that doesn't matter. If I believe it's true, to me it's a fact. Okay? But I want you to understand, you cannot, when you look at grievances people raise, you cannot look at them and make a judgment as to whether or not that's valid and just say, well, that's a bunch of garbage, whatever, go on. When you start talking about insurgencies and you start talking about movements getting together, whether it's real, whether it's a fact, is completely irrelevant. What is relevant is, do they believe it? Because if they believe it, they will act on it. Real or perceived, based on actual situations. The next thing you have to have is leadership. Without leadership to provide a direction for those people who are pissed off to go in, you just have a whole bunch of pissed off people walking around. Okay? Insert leadership that provides a direction, and now the movement goes someplace. And everybody sitting here should understand that, because that's why you're here. There was an issue or series of issues that caused a grievance among everybody in this room, or you wouldn't be here. And then all of a sudden, there was some leadership that took it in a certain direction. You're insurgents. Congratulations, welcome to world history. Okay? Lack of government control, little or no interference from security forces or other government agencies. In the case of 9/12 and the Tea Party, the government can't, because we have certain rights and the government hasn't gotten so bad that they have completely abridged all of those rights. So there's no government action. So well, they may try, but that doesn't mean they're successful. So this insurgency continues in the direction that the leadership and the bulk of the people have decided they want to see it move. Radical Islam acts the same way. Its leadership, though, takes it in a different direction. Okay? Root causes.